As I've said before, at its core, this new trilogy will be about the fate of Ben Solo, who is at least one of our new Skywalkers. And I say at least one because, of course, Rey could certainly still end up being one. But for right now, let's completely put that question aside and ask another one. Can Ben Solo be redeemed? Now, I know what some of you will probably immediately say to that. There is no way Ben Solo or Kylo Ren will ever be redeemed, nor should he be. He's killed Han Solo, and there's no coming back from that. And even if the movies show him being redeemed, you won't personally accept it and will never forgive him for what he's done. But you see, I think that's kind of the point of why they had Kylo Ren kill his father in the first place. Because Han Solo is perhaps the most beloved character in all of Star Wars, and Kylo Ren needed to do something on that level for us fans to have some type of true emotional reaction to him, which for a lot of people is to hate him. Because it's one thing to hear about all his terrible past exploits, or to see him give an order to slaughter a village full of people we don't know, like we see at the start of Episode 7, or to witness him doing horrible things to characters we're just starting to get to know and like, such as Poe and Rey. But it's something else for him to kill the character that many of us have been waiting for over 30 years to see again on screen. Think of it this way, it is heavily implied in Episode 3 that Anakin Skywalker slaughtered an entire room full of children, an act that if done in the real world, could and never would be forgiven no matter what that person went on to do with the rest of their life. And that's probably only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to what Anakin did while Darth Vader. And yet, he was redeemed at the end of Episode 6, and very few fans really have an issue with that, though of course some certainly do. My point is that by killing Han Solo, it almost feels like Kylo Ren has done something personally to us. He didn't just kill his father, he took this character away from us forever, or at least the version played by Harrison Ford. Sure, there is a possibility of seeing Han again in a flashback in Episode 8 or 9, and I would love to see one of those where Luke tells Han that he's failed him and his son Ben has turned to the dark side. But even if we do get a flashback of him, in our hearts we'll still know that Han is gone, and he's had his last adventure in the Falcon with Chewie at his side, and that's thanks to Kylo Ren. Now, personally, I don't think they had Kylo Ren kill Han just to cement him as a villain we'd all hate, though that is certainly a big part of it. What it's going to do going forward, when we see just how much Kylo/Ben has been manipulated from the shadows by Snoke his whole life, and that he's likely also been through other things that we've yet to learn about, is make us question if he's truly a villain or a victim of terrible, unimaginable circumstances. Okay, so what if in Episode 8 we learn that Ben has been haunted and corrupted by some nearly all-powerful dark side entity his whole life? We know that Leia feels a shadow over her son even before he's born, and that she apparently didn't even tell Han about this, and maybe not even Luke, because she might have feared that Luke would take her son away from her. As harsh and unlikely as that may sound, it could have been a genuine fear she had. It also seems like finally giving Ben to Luke to be trained was a last resort for Han and Leia, not something they actually wanted for him, or maybe not even something Ben wanted for himself, which would add towards the resentment he has for his parents and explain why his Jedi training may have failed. And speaking of Han, it's heavily suggested in The Force Awakens, like it or not, that he wasn't exactly the best father. So does knowing all this, and again we may learn even more about Ben Solo's childhood in Episode 8, begin to excuse him for what he's done? Does being lured to the dark side by a powerful dark side user like Snoke leave the door open for redemption and forgiveness, not only in the movie itself, but by us the fans? And I think this is one of the questions, or cliffhangers, that The Last Jedi will leave us with. Does Kylo Ren deserve redemption, and will he actually get it? Or when given the opportunity, will he choose to fully embrace being the villain? Will he decide to finish what Vader started, or live up to the potential of Anakin Skywalker? Because I think there's a good chance this movie will end with Kylo Ren facing a choice of what he should do now. Maybe it'll even be something along the lines of Luke offering him to come back so that he can join with them in their struggle against Snoke, which means he could be free of him forever. And you may say that Kylo already made his choice by killing Han, but that was one he made in the first act of the trilogy, if you will. There will likely be another similar choice before him, a final choice. And keep in mind that, in the novelization, we learn that killing his father did not have the desired effect, that it actually made Kylo Ren feel weaker. Now, for those of you who don't like this idea, I'm sure there will be other questions brought to light in Episode 8 for 9 to answer, and I'll even get to another one in a moment. And if you think this all sounds too complicated of a moral question for Star Wars to tackle, I'd argue you're wrong, because the beauty of Star Wars is it can be as simple or as complex as you want to make it. If you want to sit in the theater and shove popcorn in your mouth for some 2 hours and just enjoy cool lightsaber fights, alien worlds and characters, and spectacular space battles, coupled with a fun story, you can certainly do that. But if you want to delve deeper and see the moral complexity of the story and ask yourself the tough questions about life itself that lay within the movie, you can do that too. Think of this question, which relates to the topic that I brought up a little earlier. Does Vader killing the Emperor, and thus freeing the entire galaxy from his tyrannical grip, actually earn him the redemption he receives at the end of Episode 6? Can one giant right undo many years of horrible wrongs? This is a very tough philosophical question to answer and can literally be debated endlessly. Or, on the other hand, your thoughts on the end of Return of the Jedi could be as simple as, you thought it was pretty cool when Vader saved his son and threw that creepy old bastard down the shaft, and leave it at that. Which again, that's the beauty of Star Wars. Now, as I've said so many times before in other videos, this trilogy will be far more than just Rey on the light versus Kylo Ren on the dark. One or both of them will be tempted by the other side, or switch altogether. And as much as I think it would be interesting to see Rey fall to the dark, and you can rest assured she'll be tempted at some point, I think it will be instead she who brings Ben Solo back to the light. In fact, we know that the two have some type of bond or connection, which is even confirmed on the official Star Wars website. But what purpose will that bond serve in the story? Well, I'd have to guess that for some reason, Rey is the one that has to bring Ben Solo back to the light in order to bring the Force back into balance. And right now you might think that's ridiculous, that there's no way Rey would help Kylo considering how much he probably hates him right now. But therein lies what makes this story compelling, and leaves her with the same difficult dilemma we the fans will have about Kylo. Can she too forgive him and help him fulfill his destiny? Should she after what he's done to her? Or will she altogether reject the idea and instead seek some very un-Jedi-like redemption? Maybe this whole damn trilogy ends with Rey killing Kylo Ren and falling to the dark side because of it. Sure, highly unlikely to say the least, but wow, wouldn't that be an ending no one saw coming? At this point you might be thinking, it's going to take a hell of a lot of convincing to make me believe that not only would Rey, within the story, ever forgive him, but that I, sitting in the theater watching all this, that I would forgive him. But I think the groundwork for both has already been laid. I again go to the bond between Rey and Kylo Ren, and the likelihood that, as she's trained by Luke, Rey is going to have more visions that show her the past, present, and maybe future events, and that these events will likely show her more about Kylo Ren and the Skywalker family as a whole, which is what the first vision showed her. Mainly though, I think the visions will center around the life of Ben Solo, from the childhood where he was being haunted by Snoke and being made empty promises by his father Han, sorry Han fans, and being forgotten by his mother trying to get the New Republic up and running, to his present training being conducted by Snoke, which will probably be very unpleasant for us the audience and Rey to witness, to some confusing glimpse of the future where Kylo/Ben is doing some sort of noble act and maybe even giving his life to save hers. And then when she tells all this to Luke, he will confirm that what has happened in the past is accurate, but also warns her, as Yoda once warned him, that the future is always in motion, and that the actions we take can change how things will play out. This will let us the audience know that the fate of Ben Solo is very much in the hands of Rey. I also think in Rey's final vision during Episode 8, she'll see a couple of very important things. One, it will show her who her parents are, or what her origin is, and it will likely shock both her and us the audience. It's also likely Luke knew what that origin was, but kept it from her. And in this final vision, she'll also get to see the part that Luke played in Ben's fall to the darkness, and it'll likely center around the fact that Luke, and the rest of Ben Solo's family, lied to him and kept the truth about his grandfather, Darth Vader, from him his whole life, which is something we already know to be true thanks to the book Bloodline. And all of this will make Rey question everything Luke has been teaching her. Lastly, here's something to keep in mind. If Kylo Ren is redeemed, he's probably going to have to die, just like Vader had to die after being redeemed. Why do I say that? Well, consider what happens if Vader hadn't had his suit fried after killing the Emperor and instead survived. And here are all the rebels and Ewoks having a nice little party at Bright Tree Village on Endor when suddenly Luke shows up with his dad saying, "It's cool everyone, no worries, he's been redeemed." Obviously, that's not going to fly. And the best Anakin could ever hope for is spending the rest of his life in a cell, or trying to find himself a nice tiny little corner in the galaxy to hide in for the rest of his days. In all reality, something similar would likely happen to Kylo Ren if he is redeemed and survives. Well, that's all I got for you this time. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments below, and let's talk some Star Wars. Also, please subscribe to my channel and check out some of my other videos. If you've already done all that, then thanks for your continued support. If you want to know when I upload new videos, hit the notification button or just follow me on Twitter. And as always, thanks for watching.